But because you're learning about this, because you're understanding this, Paul's saying, I want you, therefore, to walk in a worthy manner. Worthy of what? Worthy of the calling with which you were called. So part of the good news is that he calls you to this. You were called to this. Okay, so you were called to this, great. So then what determines a worthy manner? Well, the Creator does. He tells us what a worthy manner looks like. As a matter of fact, he sent his son here to show us what it looked like so that we have an example. Paul likes to say things like, all of that stuff in that Old Testament stuff, that was all there as examples for you to see how people who walked worthily ended up, where they ended up and what that looked like, and those who didn't walk worthily, where they ended up and what that looked like. They're all examples for you. So he says, he's calling on you to walk in a worthy manner. Now, of course, if you're coming out of Christian mindset, this is a little bit challenging because Christianity's already told you you're not worthy. I've often told you that, the Creator wants to spend eternity with beings like him. Because people say, well, is this or that a salvation issue? Well, when you're saying that, what you're saying is this or that going to keep me out of the kingdom? Well, the question isn't that. The question is, what is he looking for those to be in the kingdom? He's looking for you to become like him. He wants to spend forever with like-minded individuals, with a like approach, with a like purpose. And so he's saying, look, it's all well and good that you do and don't do as I've told you to, but I'd like you to do it with humility and meekness and patience and bearing one another in love. I'd like you to do it with the fruit of the Spirit that we get in Galatians 5. I've often said that what we do know is the Father wants to live forever with the Son. We can then extrapolate out that if we become like the Son, he'd want to live with us forever too. And what does that look like? One master, one belief, one immersion, one Elohim and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. Where in this section of Ephesians 4 do we get this Messianic mantra out there of, it doesn't matter if we don't agree on everything, as long as we just know that we all love Messiah and we all love the Father? Is that actually what it says? Does it say that it's okay for us all to disagree about all these things and not be of one mind, one belief? It says the opposite, doesn't it? Or we're saying the opposite of what Paul said. We are supposed to get to that place where we're all on the same page. For the perfecting of the set-apart ones. And the word perfecting there, let's call it coming into completeness. Let's call it maturing to fullness. Don't think of it as just, I'll never make another mistake perfect. The perfecting means bringing you to where you were designed to be. These 5 roles are to help you become, I don't want to sound like a military commercial, all you can be, but all he had intended you to become. They're the helpers, the guides, the ones who are going to hold your hand when you struggle, the ones that are going to smack you when you need a smack. Because the shepherd's going to hold your hand, the prophet's going to give you a smack. But you have people in all of those roles. Sometimes the same person can wear several of those hats, or all of them at different moments, depending on what you need. Until we all come to the unity of the belief and of the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the completeness of Messiah. Has that happened? Are we there yet? No. So I'm saying with confidence that I'm believing Paul's inspired, that these guys still have to exist because they were supposed to exist according to Paul until. And we haven't accomplished the until. So that means it's still there. Which is why I tell you all the time, your job, your role is to go out and find one. Not find one that's claiming to be one, just find one that is one. Well, I don't know, how do I know? Pray, taste of, vet. When I say vet, I mean hold what they're saying against the verses. That these people are still gonna be around because we are not in the unity of belief yet. Is the body in the unity of belief? No. I would say there's almost nothing you can point to that they all agree about. Whoever you think is in the body, there's almost nothing that they'll agree. They may agree that Yeshua is Messiah. They may not agree what that means. I mean, there are just a few things they may agree about. But how many things does everybody in the body agree about? Not much. They may all agree, for example, we need to keep Shabbat. But do they agree what that looks like? Oh, we all need to eat kosher, but do they agree what that looks like? We all have to keep feasts. They can't agree on the calendar. So we're not keeping the feast the same. So we're not there yet. Of course, there's supposed to be these roles available to help us get there, except that we don't want to submit ourselves to them, find them, and then trust that they are going to get us into this maturing of the set-apart one state. by every wind of teaching, by the trickery of men and cleverness, unto craftiness and leading astray. Now, by the way, when it says trickery of men, cleverness, and craftiness, it's not necessarily talking about the man who's doing the teaching being clever and crafty and tricky. It may be the organization for hundreds of years that they're now a part of that way back when had an agenda like that. And that they just came in with honest belief and openness to receive whatever they were being taught in that particular denominational understanding. So I'm not saying they are purposely, although some probably are, likely a small amount. I think most of them are genuine in their thinking they're in the right place and doing the right things. They have no idea where what they're doing came from because they likely found it through generations of their own family being whatever they were, whether it was charismatic or Baptist or Catholic or whatever. By the way, that's good news. Because without that kind of good news, you'd have no way to sift through all that confusion out there. Of course, there's a trap. If you just randomly pick anybody, you can end up in some cult of personality thing where it's just about, just do whatever that guy says just because he says he's whatever he is. I ask you to obey and listen to what the Ruach tells you when you hear the clarity that you were looking for. How many times, and I know a few people that will answer this for sure, have you literally been talking to your spouse or somebody else about the topic on the way to services that you were struggling with, and then the teaching answered that question? That's him, that's not me. I don't know what you're talking about in your car. Some of you think I've got spies in your car. Okay? Rabbi, do you got my car bugged? 'Cause my husband and I were just talking about that on the way to services, and then boom, you covered it. He knew, I didn't know. He says, but these guys are to bring you into unity. Because people like to say, oh no, we just have to get along and just allow that everybody can believe everything and anything and whatever. That's not what it says, okay? That is certainly not what Paul is saying. He actually makes it really, really tough here. He says, we're gonna have to do this not only in unity, but in unity that's measured against the completeness of the stature of Messiah. Did Messiah mention unity ever? How about in John when he says, Father, I want them to be one as we are one. That's the unity of the fullness of the stature of Messiah. The unity of him and the Father is what he wants us to be like. He says, I want them, this is Messiah himself speaking, to be one in the same way, in the completeness of the stature of how we are one. So you know what the word cult gets used by most people as? Anything that's different than you that you don't like. So it's a cult. That's literally what they'll do. All the Christians think Messianics are a cult. All Messianics are a cult, no matter how different they teach it. Because why? Because it's different than them. Although the way that body acts, that's the most cult acting body I know about, the Christian system. Look at how upset they get if you leave. I'll just shake your hand and wish you well on your journey if you leave. Not because I want you to leave, just because you got to do you. You have to do your thing. You have a journey. It may not be the same as mine. I can't judge that. He says not to judge. But boy, you get judged pretty good by everybody that you know when you left their system they were in. And then they call, well, you're going a cult, as they act like a cult.